Ready?
Ready.
All right. Good evening. I'd like to call to order this public hearing of the Cave Creek Unified School District Governing Board. It is a public hearing to receive comments from the public on the revised 2024-25 district budget. Item 1.2, public comments. Are there any public comments? All righty. Item 1.3, adjournment. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Item 2.1, call to order for the business meeting of the Cave Creek Unified School District. Today is Tuesday, May 13th, and it is 6 o'clock. Item 2.2, pledge allegiance. Please stand. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Item 2.3, roll call. All members of the board are present. Members of the cabinet present are Dr. Pletnick, Dr. Hendrickson, Dr. Jensen, and of course, Mr. Dolezal. Item 2.4, formal adoption of the agenda. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any
Pull something?
revisions
Just
to the
want,
agenda?
just want to pull 4.3 and put it at the end.
Okay. Anything else?
4.8.
4.8. All right, anything else? Okay. All in favor of the revised agenda, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Item 2.5, President's Report. Well, today I had the pleasure of attending the kindergarten senior exchange out on the football field, and it was very cool to see all of the kindergartners and the seniors meeting on the football field. It was very cool. And the kindergartners are the class of 2038.
Wow.
Or 37? 37, so time flies. I've also attended the signing day, the most recent signing day at Cactus Shadows, and so congratulations to our athletes who will be moving on to collegiate athletics. Went to the superintendent's coffee at Cactus Shadows. I attended the One Voice concert, and since the last board meeting, I had the honor of attending 2 of our Employee of the Month breakfasts. So congratulations to all of our employees. And that's my report. Item 2.6, board comments.
Oh, we're just going in order these days? Oh, man.
Just easier.
I want my seat moved.
We got started.
All right. Well, I did a few things. Senior Theater One Acts. It was a great show that the seniors put on. I, too, went to One Voice. Went to the Cactus Shadows dance recital, which was actually really impressive. CCAP Awards Breakfast, again, Careers Through the Culinary Arts Program. Attended that with Miss Barella. Kiwanis Nights of Excellence. Hats off to Kiwanis and Janet for putting that together. Imprints of Honor Book Reception and Awards. Those that don't know Imprints of Honor, that's where our students write stories about veterans, and it's actually a great club for many to participate in. Spring Choir Showcase, another extravagant job well done by Mrs. Dolezal. Went to the Senior Awards ceremony. Also attended last night the EBIT board meeting, where one of our very own was recognized for winning the CCAP award. Lone Mountain talent show today, which was 2 hours of, I gotta say, cuteness. Those kids were, actually a lot of them were really talented. There was a kindergarten, I was like, you sure she's not in 6th grade? And then finally, Imprints of Honor tribute to Mr. Lindbergh. I joined some of the students in surprising him with an end-of-the-year gift and a special guest from a galaxy far, far away. Mr. Lindbergh concludes his tenure having led the layout and editing of Since You Asked edition for Imprints of Honor. With his departure, Imprints of Honor project will transition over to another school for them to produce that editing piece. And that's what I have.
Okay. Next.
I, too, attended the Senior One Acts. It's always great to see the talent and energy that the seniors put into their final project for their theater class. Then also attended the Senior Awards goodness, I think that was just last Monday morning. So it was nice to see how many scholarships our students do receive and just all their achievements that they're doing both academically and also in their extracurriculars, including athletics and the arts. I also attended the Cactus Shadows dance recital. It's there on the last evening of 3. Definitely bittersweet to see Miss Alyssa Erickson, who's been with us for 19 years, and now she's going to become a Bobcat where her son goes to school. So it'll be nice to still have her within CCUSD. It was nice to see her honored there, though, by all of her dancers. And then lastly, also attended the Excellence Awards, where we get to recognize staff at every school within the district. That's it for me.
I had to be really judicious about what I was going to do this time. I only had a limited amount of time, so I said I have to make it count. So I went to the Rock the District thing, and it was beyond belief. So it was so much fun and so much talent. So that was my one and only.
Very
But
cool.
it was great.
Awesome. Jackie?
Yeah, I attended the Senior Scholarship Awards ceremony and other awards, and that was really inspiring. I was absolutely blown away by some of the dollar amounts that these kids earned, over $600,000, I think, for 2 of them, and $500,000. That was just uber impressive. I've obviously lost touch with how much scholarship money's out there, but I loved it, and congratulations to all of our seniors for their awards and scholarships and future endeavors, and it'll be fun to watch and see what all of you do and accomplish. So that was it.
Very cool. Item 2.7, Superintendent's Report.
President Greer, members of the board, this is such a wonderful time of year, busy, but absolutely wonderful. I'd like to start by sending good luck to our boys volleyball team. They are playing as I speak right now in the Blue Gym against Prescott this evening. Also like to congratulate our baseball, softball, track and field student athletes for their great seasons this spring. Also like to mention the kindergartner senior exchange that happened at 5 o'clock today at the football stadium. Seniors welcomed and passed the torch to the class of 2037. This was a new event, first year, and organized by the Cactus Shadows National Honor Society. Was able to be at Rock the District myself, was able to see our dance students in their final show this year, both our all-district choir and all band performances, as well as the final chorus and band concerts for Cactus Shadows. Also got to celebrate our art students at the celebration of the art reception last night. Our students' talents truly never cease to amaze. I'd like to send a congratulations out to Kaylee Rollins. She was the number 6 soprano in the entire state for voice. She recently participated in the All-State Honors Music Festival at NAU. She was required to memorize 6 songs before she even got there, 3 in English, 1 in German, 1 in Latin, and 1 in Russian, which is a South African language. She's a junior. It's her 3rd year making All-State, which is pretty impressive, and we are very proud of her. Also, congratulations to our students who signed recently on May 7th. Karsten Piglowski is playing baseball at Calvin University in Michigan. Dallas Dunn, baseball at South Mountain Community College in Phoenix. Grayson Hedden, baseball, Nichols State in Thibodaux, Louisiana. And then Layla Crimp to play golf at PVCC. Also like to acknowledge the athletes of the month, Grayson Hedden for baseball and Bailey Fitzmaurice for softball. Congratulations, Grayson and Bailey. And that concludes my superintendent's report.
Awesome. It is a busy time of the year. Item 3.1, fiscal year 2024-25 budget revision presented by Dr. Pletnick.
President Busby, governing board members. Tonight I'm going to present the final FY25 budget revision. Now, Arizona statute allows districts to submit the adopted budget revision by May 15th of the fiscal year. Normally, what we see is, and for this budget, what we saw was a proposal for the budget, June 11th, 2024. The budget was adopted on June 25th, 2024. We did not need a December revision this year of the budget. And the reason why we did not need a revision is because the budget was within 1% of the general budget limit. So the state does send out, they review budgets, and if it's within 1% of the budget limit, they say you were good in December. So we are within 1% of that budget. And then the final budget is due in May. So the final chance we have to revise the budget is May. Now, the budget revision for us this year, again, a budget revision, and one thing I do want to stress about the budget is this is our spending capacity. So the budget you can't think of as expenditures. That's our AFR when we figure out what our expenditures are for the year. But back in June of 2024, Ms. Rodriguez essentially predicted what our FY25 budget would be. So at that point, we are funded on that 100-day student count. So when it changed over years ago in the state from being funded by prior year's count to current year's count, it's constantly a moving target. So back in June, when the budget was adopted, what would occur on that is we would estimate the number of students we would have. We would estimate what kind of carryover we have. And remember, carryover is the difference between what your budget capacity was the prior year and what your expenditures were. And later on in the presentation, I'll show you an outline where that lies for us this upcoming year. So when the budget was adopted in June of 2024, the budget capacity was estimated at $32.9 million, almost $40 million. So this budget revision in May, after the 100-day student count and all additional funding, which we'll cover a little bit more in detail, our M&O budget increased to $34.6, almost $34.7 million, which is about $1.6, $1.7 million higher in capacity. You'll notice as we talked budget over the past January, February, and March, some of these numbers may look familiar to you, where I said we have kind of the maximum to spend of around $34 million. And after the 100-day student count, that is the case, is what we have in M&O, including this year's, which we'll see in a second, funding, and our carryover is that $34.6 million. So getting into the details with the M&O. Our revenue control limit, or what that is the amount we are funded by the state. So that average daily membership number for that 100-day student count. And we talked about, the past couple months, we talked about what the weighting for those students were. We talked about including things such as like the teacher experience index. So you've heard those over the past couple of months. What the total was from the state after that 100-day student count was about $28.5 million. So this year we received for our ADM that $28.5 million. Now that number still can slightly vary because the state is going to do a final calculation of the ADM this summer. But based upon the current 100-day student counts and what they have updated, that is where we stand. And if you remember, we talked about moving $2 million over from that capital or DAA. So you can see the $2 million up there. And you see in the revised, our carry forward is $3.7 million. Now in the original adopted budget, Ms. Rodriguez estimated that the carry forward would be about $1.8 million. Now, that is an estimation. Why is it an estimation? It's because we don't know our final expenditures, and it's not official for our carry forward until November. So we have to perform our annual financial report, our AFR, and once we calculated exactly what we spent in a fiscal year, then we know what our expenses are. So at the time that the budget was adopted, it assumed we would have about 1.8 million. And again, over the past couple months, as we've been looking at, once we performed our AFR and once what what's called the Budget 75, which is official state report telling you what your carryover is, we knew that would be that $3.7 million, and we've been using that number for the past few months. There's a couple other adjustments and additional funding, such as Prop 123. The state does give a little extra DAA or capital money to us, and money for free and reduced lunch. So far, that has come to $468,661. Now, that number can change as well, because the final payment actually comes in June for the district additional capital. So the state releases what it's estimated to be at, so you can perform your budget revision, but that may vary slightly. Just to give you an idea, from December till now, it varied by about $4,000 total. So typically that doesn't vary too far off of what they give us the estimate for. So as our M&O, when the budget was adopted last June, you can see exactly what was placed in the budget, in that adopted budget, with the 28.7 estimation of state funding, the $2 million, the 1.8 of carry forward, and the other adjustments at $350,000. So those are the adjustments we're making for our budget capacity. And again, remember, budget capacity is that maximum amount that we can spend as a district. So the maximum amount we can spend as a district is that $34.6 million. Now, moving over to the capital side of the budget. The unrestricted capital budget limit is the UCBL. So that is the fancy word for saying our capital. It was calculated at that $2.1 million, and that was the case. Now, what we know from our AFR is our expenditures. Our expenditures, Ms. Rodriguez predicted, would be about $860,000. When we performed our AFR in November, we came in just underneath that at about $843,000, which means we had $1.28 million in budget limit. We also gained interest on that. So that 1.28, just to clarify, was that carry forward moving forward. And we earned interest on our capital money, so about $20,000. And we were funded at $2.4 million in FY25 capital. But we moved that $2 million over to M&O, so that only left us with $470,000 in capital. So when we add that $470,000 of capital to that 1.28 carry forward, our capacity in our capital currently is $1.775 million. So again, that is our maximum limit that we have to spend in all of our capital, is that $1.775 million. All right, so the next steps on this is the governing board approves the revised budget, and then we file it with the Department of Education. Now, there are future steps that I want to cover with you, and I'm going to move to a timeline. So through November, we're actually going to work with 2 fiscal years. So this is not the last you're going to see of the FY25 budget. So if you look at the blue dots represent key points for the fiscal year 25 budget that still needs to happen. The green dots are the FY26 budget. So you can see soon we're going to be working in 2 fiscal years in the finance department. And really, the entire district is going to be working within 2 years. So this revision happens in May. And in 2 weeks, you are going to get the proposed FY26 budget. And then 2 weeks after that, it would be adopting the FY26 budget. Then on July 1st, the FY26 fiscal year starts. Now it also concludes FY25, but we can still close out any kind of purchases through mid-August. So we won't have our final purchase orders, our final purchases finished until mid-August, and that's when we have to close up the fiscal 25 school year. After that, in October, we'll be performing the annual financial report, so we'll know what we truly spent in fiscal year 25. So once we know what we truly spent in fiscal year 25, we submit that to the state. The state will then give us what we call the Budge 75. Now, what Budge 75 is it tells us how much carry forward we have. So you saw tonight the capacity that we have, the $34 million and the $1.7 million. And then in October, I'll perform the annual financial report to look at all of the expenditures for the year. Once that's calculated, they'll take the budget from that will finalize, and then we'll take the expenses, and we'll see how much money we have to carry forward into FY 26. So anything in the proposed budget, and I'm hoping to show you anything in the proposed budget, is going to be estimated carry forward until we know those final expenses. And then what's going to happen in December would be an FY 26 budget revision at that point. For next year. The one caveat I do have for this, there may be a budget revision in September that has to occur, and that's because by the time we do our proposed budget in 2 weeks, the state may not pass their budget, which means we have to do a provisionary budget until we know what the state is truly going to fund us. So that would result in a September revision as well. Okay. So any questions?
Just curious, with the state, is there any likelihood that the state will fund more than what we're anticipating?
Then I guess there's always potential. But what we're anticipating is we're $5,013. Essentially, the base level funding is $5,013 per student this year. We're expecting, at least through a few different associations, we're expecting to see our normal inflationary increase and it to be about $5,113 we're hoping next year for that base level funding. So about $100 increase on that.
That's right. Better than nothing.
Yeah, and now the capital, we aren't expecting any kind of increase to capital funding.
Okay.
I have a question. Can you explain where that extra, like almost 1.7 million came from carryover from what Ms. Rodriguez had budgeted or expected to bring over versus what we now have available in carry forward?
Mm-hmm. So there's a few things on this page with the M&O when we're talking about the differences that we have to look at. So again, let's look at that first, the RCL revenue control limit. The revenue control limit is that ADM number of how many students we have. So it was pretty close on that estimation last year of the state funding. So it was expected about the 28.8 million, and we came in at 28.5 million. So there was a little slight difference in that. But the carry forward, where that comes from, is an estimation of what our expenses will end at. So if you remember, we don't know our true expenses until October when we perform the AFR. So what we have to look at is what we've currently spent in a year. Then we have to figure out, okay, what's still encumbered or what still is earmarked to be paid out. And so you look at that and you go, okay, I'm going to estimate, our budget capacity is $30 million. And I think we're going to spend 29, so we'll have $1 million carry forward. So really it was an estimation of where our spending was going to fall. And so if we look at it from that estimation, that's where that 1.6 million, between that and some additional funding, that's where that came into play.
Okay.
And Member Walker, Dr. Pletnick, just to be a little more specific, that can be, if we budgeted for a position and never filled it, so that salary was encumbered until the end of the year, and if we never hired that position, that could come off and contribute to a higher number. Schools do purchase orders for something. They might have done a purchase order for $750. That purchase order only they only spent $600. That's a difference of $150. But if there's, all our schools and they're doing that and there's 10 of those, it all adds up. And ultimately, though, that isn't determined until they do the final closures of the year and then get to that final report that comes later. So all of that, Ms. Rodriguez does her best. I know Dr. Pletnick will do our best to give our best guess in terms of what carry forward would be from this year, from that 34 million, what we'd fall under that.
So I know that we talked during closures about the potential overspend. So have we yield that back, or are we looking at, I mean, how do you feel? Yes, I understand we got to wait for everything to come in, but where are you feeling we're going to land?
Okay, well, remember more, great question, because right before we came in, I looked at our year-to-date expenditures in our M&O, and I looked at the encumbrances and what we call pre-encumbrances, so what's kind of earmarked right now. And right now, we're looking at about $31.6 million. So if you look at $31.6 million, it leaves about $3 million of carry forward at this point. Next week, I'll try to get a little bit more precise because I'll be pulling as many encumbrances out as I possibly can, or in 2 weeks, I'm sorry, as I can, and we're actually in the process of trying to close out purchase orders, trying to close out some of these items. But with that, again, and I've said it before, if you look at that at 31.6 million, and our total capacity that we can spend is at 34.6 million, that's 3 million of carry forward. If you look at our carry forward right now on this slide, it's 3.7, which means we're eating into our carry forward. And that's what we've been talking about over the past couple of months, and that's where the concern becomes is we're spending that carry forward. So that piggy bank we have, that safety net, that months of operating expense that we should be putting aside just in case, we're eating into that. And you can also see that in our revised capital expenditures. Again, we have about $1.7 million in capacity in our capital, but if you saw, we spent about $850,000 last year on capital, and if we spend another $850,000 in capital this year, again, we're going to be under $1 million in that carry forward moving into next year or the following year. So that's where the concern lies with some of the spending.
I mean, I don't want to jump ahead into the budget that's coming soon, but are you already recognizing, let's call it, the adjustments made with the school closures? Like, are we going to look at the same kind of carryover that we've been, or are we actually going to yield that back?
Well, the goal is to begin growing that carry forward, and not even looking into next year, but looking at what we've been doing this year. I think that Dr. Jensen can tell you sometimes dealing with me is like pulling teeth of, can we get this? Can we get that? And I'm like, no. And so we've taken steps already this year as positions open, and it seems like we're going to talk about that later tonight. As positions open, we haven't filled them, we've closed them, and we've been consolidating positions, and we're going back to one of the basic economic terms of productivity, and what we're doing is trying to increase those productivity rates of our people. And again, that shrinking, that slimming, that is ensuring that we're properly sized everywhere, but ensuring that we are maximizing the productivity, whether it be of our services, whether it be of our human capital, or whether it be our capital investments in equipment. So we've been taking steps all year to try to minimize that 31. And again, if you look at the budget, 39 or 32.9, or I'm sorry, 32.996 million. We're not going to spend that 32.9 even. So even when Ms. Rodriguez, if she would have budgeted for that full amount, we're scaling back as much as we possibly can from those amounts.
And then, Member Ward, just want to also add that the plan is, while capital, as Dr. Pletnick said, isn't going up, that we're also not moving an entire $2 million over. We're moving less, so we will actually maintain more money in the capital side of that, to try and maintain some of that carry forward and not bring the
Right.
whole 2 million over, so.
Right, yeah, that was kind of the question. Is
Yep.
in order to repurpose it in its proper direction, you got to stop moving it this way.
Right.
So,
And we've honestly, remember more, we've reached that point because if you look at that capital amount, if you spend $850,000 off of that capacity, I mean, that leaves only 1 year left if you keep moving it over. So really, we're at that point of we have no choice.
correct.
So I think you may have just answered my question, because I was going to ask, is there a plan, where we're not moving that $2 million every single year? Because we've been doing it forever and ever and ever. Do we see a way that we're going to be keeping that?
Yeah, Member Fortney, I think it's kind of like before the movie, the previews. In 2 weeks, you'll kind of get that full
I don't want
piece.
to wait.
But yes, that is the case. As I've begun the preparations for the FY26 budget, and I've had this conversation with Mr. Dolezal, in that budget, we are not going to move over the full $2 million. We're at the point of we're scaling again back in certain areas. We have made, again, the unfortunate decision that we've had to close 2 of our schools, and what we're trying to do is stabilize. We're trying to spend within our means. We're trying to get to where our revenue control limit is $28.5 million. Like, how do we stay within that so we don't eat into that carry forward coming out? So, yes, we're making those adjustments, and in the proposed budget, the plan is to begin scaling back on the amount that we are moving over into that capital. So long-winded.
And that would reduce one of those things that the Auditor General was kind of saying we were in a bad spot for, so there we go, make that go away.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's part of the budget proposal process. And if you talk to ADE and you talk to the Auditor General, they would advise when those warnings do come out from the Auditor General, those warnings is to begin taking actions and creating an action plan on those, and that is one of those absolutely that we can take action on.
Thank you.
Any questions? Okay. Any other questions? Thank you. Item 4, action consent. Is there a motion?
So moved.
A second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Item 4.3, human resource items presented by Dr. Hendrickson.
Member Greer, members of the board, move that the governing board approve the HR items as presented.
So basically, I just wanted to,
Have a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, now ask your question.
okay. Yep. So basically, I just wanted to pull this because there was some questions. We had gotten some questions to the board about what are these, all these new positions? We close these schools. Are we supposed to be consolidating things? So I just wanted to have it be a time when we could actually say what these are so that people can not wonder about that. So, thank you.
Member Forney, do you have a specific position you'd like to discuss or to clarify?
Mostly just the ones that are being added here, these here at the, right there.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So, Member Forney, great question. So, in Governing Board Policy 4102, anytime we make revisions to a position, add new positions, we bring it forward to the board for approval. And so, as we continue our consolidation and as we right size our schools, so too are we right sizing our district office divisions. And so specifically, you'll see a lot of payroll positions. And so we've lost a position, and so we are not replacing that position. And so with that, we want to make sure that every job description is in alignment with the duties and responsibilities of that individual. So these are all individuals that are currently in these positions. We're simply revising those roles. We have to do that for a couple of reasons. Number one, make sure that we have clear communication what they're responsible for, and so that's outlined in the job description. They're evaluated on that job description as well. So again, we want to make sure we're evaluating them on what the expected job responsibilities are. And then more specifically for our finance department, unlike, job descriptions are always needing to be revised and updated because of new things that are happening. Specific to our finance department, because they have additional oversight and regulation from the USFR, we need to make sure we have a clearly defined separation of duties. So one person can't be creating the procurement and the other person can't be writing the check for that, or the same person can. Dr. Pletnick can probably talk a little bit more eloquently to that, but clear division of duties. And so that, in revising these, we have a clear division of duties. The additional thing is with the addition of the Assistant Superintendent of Business Services, that's simply Dr. Pletnick taking on a new role. CFOs typically only look at financials. With a smaller district in our positions, we take on many hats. Dr. Jensen, myself, we are not just Ed Services or HR, we wear many hats. In Dr. Pletnick's capacity, he oversees facilities, transportation, food and nutrition, so beyond just the financial pieces. And so this title really reflects what that role and responsibilities are. And I also believe that it is a role that what it used to be called in the past. So once again, to summarize, no new positions. We're simply making sure the people that are in these positions have clearly defined roles and responsibilities. And then reducing one position, in finance.
And then Member Forney, right, we are going from currently, there were 6 positions in the Business Services Department, that's reduced to 5. And that one that was reduced, those are the duties that got divided up and defined in these new job descriptions.
Any other questions?
Yep. Why the rush to reclassify? And also, why aren't they just reclassifications? Meaning, when you're labeling it out, it would say CFO reclassifying to this role. Because what it opens up a couple different things from an HR perspective is, A, are you removing and killing the role of CFO? Or are you kind of parking it for a rainy day? 2, you just got done closing 2 schools. So optically, I got to be honest, like, these moves are a bit aggressive given the timing. It's more like, why not settle in, get the budget right, understand what the real needs are. People can fill in a job without a title. I mean, to some extent they can. You can adjust. Even if you adjusted the current role of descriptions, you could add nuance.
Now, Member Moore, what I do have to say is when we go through our audit, and we are audited every year, when we're removing a position within the financial department in a district versus a business, we are audited on kind of what Dr. Hendrickson said, where if somebody is processing, say, a requisition, they can't go through and they can't approve the requisition. And then, again, then the warrant has to be issued. And those have to be clearly separated and defined. If we go into where we're removing a role within the financial department, which it was the accounts payable position, people have to fulfill that duty. And what we have to have is it clearly defined that this duty now falls upon this person. Because if they begin approving warrants with the state, if they begin crossing the lines, you're going to get into a situation that some districts actually have recently had audit findings on and additional audit findings on. And I can tell you just right off, well, there are a few southern districts that have had these findings and these written reports on it. So I would say it clearly reflects their job positionings. As for an optics, I totally appreciate and I can understand what you're saying as far as optics, but this truly reflects what those people are doing. And when you're processing, in the past 3 months, when we're going to be processing, $10, $20 million, we better have those clear lines drawn for that $10 or $20 million, because the last thing we want to do is have our auditors come in and have a finding, or the Auditor General have a finding that well, this person's job duty is this, yet why are they doing that?
And then how does that apply to the Assistant Superintendent of Business versus you being the CFO currently? What are you limited by?
Again, Member Moore, it is changing the title. It is really reflecting CFOs are often classified positions. Dr. Pletnick is a certified person. also with a doctorate. So it really is honoring and returning to the same job description we've had with similar positions in this district, where they are certificated and certified people in that position as opposed to a classified position. I think I heard you say, and perhaps a different way to have explained it would be, say, just to reclassify or something like that, because this is not a new position. It is not adding any salary. It is not an increase. It is really just shifting that title to really honor the work and the classification of the role that he's fulfilling. Dr. Hendrickson, did you
And
want to?
remember more if I can add on that. So again, remember we have to do things in steps. And so the first step is approving the job description. The second step is going to be reclassifying individuals into those roles. And so HR items that you'll see at an upcoming board meeting, we'll see name of the individual, current role, what their new title is going to be. So you're going to see those members classified. I can't put the cart before the horse. I have to do this step first. Then you'll see in the next HR items them being reclassified. We can't put them all on the same board because you can't, if you don't approve this, then you're trying to pull out an item in the HR items of someone moving over. So you're going to see our current finance people being moved over to those roles.
Does it make more sense for these to be an agenda item versus action consent so you can put more context to them?
We can take that under advisement, and if that's what you'd like to see, we can do that moving forward. Historically, this is where they've gone. So, but if it's the wishes of the board, we can absolutely make that an action item.
We can pull anything out of action.
No,
consent.
I understand that, but it just, again, it's the difference in getting the time to have conversation around it versus just a poll. So, for example, we're going to talk about, what we're going to do with DSA as a presentation versus just like action consent, even though there's some variables to that. I'm just stating that. So, by doing this, I guess my next question is then why weren't you classified as that when you came in as CFO? I mean, just for my own knowledge, I'm just curious if the merits were already there because you came in with the merits, why wasn't that the position to begin with?
Remember more because that's what it was called before. We just didn't do it at that point in time. I don't have a better explanation of that other than his predecessor, Ms. Rodriguez, did a tremendous job. It was the CFO was the title, and ultimately we didn't do it last year, so we looked at this actually makes more sense and is a better description of his job, so we updated it this year.
I can attest to the position was an assistant superintendent of financial and business operations, and that's what it was for a very long time. And for whatever reason, it was actually all of the assistant superintendent positions were changed to an executive director. And this part I'm not really sure, but all of them except for the finance position, we changed back to assistant superintendents, and for whatever reason, that one was left, not changed back to an assistant superintendent. And so it follows in line with what most school districts do with their top leadership.
And President Greer wasn't changed at the time because Mrs. Rodriguez was a certificated administrator, or a classified administrator, so left it as the CFO at that point, which is more the classified side as opposed to the certificated side.
Yeah, and this position, it's a change in the official title, but not a change in compensation.
Yeah, no, I got that part.
So it's just going back to what Cave Creek has historically had as job title. And Dr. Pletnick has the certification, so it does honor that. So, any other questions?
I
Okay.
think just for clarification, especially for the public, is that these 5 job descriptions are taking the place of currently 6 individuals for the coming year, and that each one of these on the next HR, since the job descriptions are approved, will then show what they replaced previously.
Member Walker, that's 100% correct. Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, just to weigh in on that again, just to kind of put it on public record, I think I agree with Member Moore. This one would have been nice to pull out of action consent more than anything because of what we've gone through the last few months. I know a lot of the public is very skittish. They're watching everything, and my phone and email lit up after this was put into the agenda yesterday afternoon. And so, again, it's really, I think it's very important that as a district, as a board, all of us come together to really serve our stakeholders well in making sure that everything is, I hate to keep using the word transparent, but that it's very clear. Let's put it that way. It would have been nice if this would have been separated and said, please note, none of these are new positions. These are taking the place, they're already filled, there are no salary addition, all of that, just to make it very clear so that we don't have that resistance that we've experienced.
That's why I pulled it.
Yeah, it's just the reclassification. I mean, that's just 100%. If it said, hey, we're reclassifying this position to now this position, fulfilling this, then we know that position's going away and it's creating the new. So, again, going from just saying, hey, we're adding a assistant superintendent title leaves open the CFO title. So it's like, that's not really clear. And I understand you got to get to A to get to B, but that's why I'm saying in a presentation format, you can say, hey, here's the why. Here's what we're trying to accomplish. Does this make sense? Action consent doesn't give us that breadth.
All right, all in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, item 4.8, monthly enrollment report, presented by Dr. Pletnick.
President Greer, governing board members, move that the governing board take no action, and this is information only.
Is there a motion?
Second.
Okay.
All right. So my question on this one, and really all of them, is based on what we're seeing from enrollment, based on the survey that you guys sent out for the middle school and for the elementaries, what is your kind of forecast for enrollment as we head into the new year, and what measures are being kind of put in place to potentially mitigate that risk?
As far as projections moving forward, and again, that's in 2 weeks, I'll present the FY26 budget and that will be predicting the enrollment moving forward. I'm going to be very conservative with that. We are going to, and budgeting, not to put the cart before the horse, but we're going to see a number that is definitely lower than our 3,800 students. As I'm running this forecast, I can give you exact numbers now off of estimates, and that could run down to 3,300 students next year. And again, depending upon when I look at that final enrollment piece right before the budget's due, I will take these numbers, use what we've seen historically as a percentage decrease in each one of the grade levels, but then we'll be adding certainly additional losses for the 2 school closures. So at this point, I would say it could be as low as 3,300 as a district. I mean, you could see it, just if we do a full rollover right now, the high school being just under 1,250, we could be seeing the high school being around 1,200 at that point. The middle school, if we do a full roll forward of all the students, you're looking at 950, based upon different percentages, it could be 850 next year. So those are all numbers that in a couple of weeks that I'm going to give you in the FY26 budget as we try to forecast that revenue control limit. So forecast-wise, I guess that's another preview of what's moving forward. And again, if you look at that RCL, if we do if we do see those losses, that RCL is going to be impacted pretty significantly with those losses. And so that's what we're having to prep for as a district.
So you see us coming into the percentages that you kind of projected we would, or are you seeing potentially a higher risk to accelerate past that point?
If I had a crystal ball, Member Moore, I would definitely be able to tell you. What I can tell you is I am going to be very conservative and prepare for losses that I would say on the more conservative side on the losses, rather than going, well, maybe not. This is going to be a great day, because when we're looking at our budget and our budget revision moving forward, if I over predict and I predict our RCL next year at, say, just making up a number, 27 million, and we come in at 25.6 million, that means we're $1.4 million off. So that means we either have to eat $1.4 million in carry forward, or we have to figure a way to reduce our budget next year by $1.4 million. And what that would mean is something terrible in respect to potential rifts starting off in the year. If we go through and our 10-day count is lower than what I budget for, it can have a severe negative impact on the lives of all of our employees. So it's going to have to be a conservative approach, because truly, until we see those kids in those seats, we're not going to know what the impact is. And I think Dr. Jensen can speak to surveying the students or potential students for next year, surveying those who are current students at this point, and she has her numbers, and again, I have my numbers at that point, and it's somewhere we have to find a happy medium.
Yeah, and Member Moore also just wanted to add that we know, again, 375-ish high school students, and we've been bringing in 200 to 225 kindergarten students in that. I will say good news is that Horseshoe Trails has actually talked about opening up another preschool room, because there's been so many requests. So that's a good thing, because again, if we get them in preschool continuing forward, those are good. So there are some signs like that are happening. But again, if you remember the last couple of months, we kind of did here's one scenario, here's a little worst case scenario, here's an even worse case scenario, kind of looking at percentages of loss. We know historically from prior closures that you do lose some. So that's the conservative nature that we want to come. We would rather come back to you in September and go, we've increased our budget capacity and go that way, as opposed to, as Dr. Pletnick just described, the other way. So I have encouraged him to be conservative in those, in that budget. And again, then looking at, again, wanting to go, if we're going to be off, I'd rather be off conservatively and gain some capacity back, as opposed to vice versa.
And then what are you doing in regards to some of the parents that have said, hey, I'm pulling my kids? Is there a kind of a plan from the cabinet as far as how you guys are attacking this? Are you meeting with the families? Are you like, what are the countermeasures, short of predicting a budget, but what are the action items that you're taking? Because again, most of our fallout seems to be middle school and high school. So what are those things that we're attacking right now to potentially keep, win back, retain some of the loss that could impact us?
Well, asking for exactly that feedback, that's what is it that it takes. We've gotten calls from people, we've reached out, we've emailed, we've had some meetings. We're waiting to hear from some people as well in terms of reaching back out and what can we do. So we are not ignoring, we're listening, we're talking, we're seeing what we can do, we're having meetings, we're making adjustments where we can.
Okay, so of the surveys that went out, the almost, let's call it 10% of the families indicated they wouldn't return. You guys have contacted those families and tried to mitigate that off the survey that went out.
Yes, Member Moore, we send the survey out every time somebody withdraws, within a week or two, and they come back, and if they request a phone call, we call them and follow up and listen more. But typically they tell us quite clearly exactly why they're leaving.
No, but you guys sent out the survey for the closure, just trying to get a
Oh, the closure
upfront
surveys
bingo.
that we sent to everybody. Yes. Okay. So that one we've looked at, and our systems engineer has given everybody a code for next year based off of that survey. So, we're going to go to this school, we're going to go to that school, whatever it is. And then those are the emails that those families are receiving moving forward. The principals have reached out, maybe ad nauseum. Some have gotten annoyed and asked to be left alone. And so yes, we're reaching out. Again, if we already know why they're leaving, because some of them make it very clear at their current campus why they're leaving, we're not going to, I want to say, harass people, and we don't need to be told over and over again about reliving January and February. But we listen to the parts that are new or that are different. Does that answer the question?
To some extent.
What more can I answer?
Do you ever go back and look if it's a particular student and there's a history of, I don't want to say issues, I don't even know what the word is I want to say, but just where there's been reports and communication that potentially they were going to be pulled? Is that data gathered? Are we looking at that and seeing where patterns and...
Yes, Vice President Ulmer. So every time, now this is going back to the people who are withdrawing and are currently our students. So I don't want to call it, how doctors do at the after death morbidity and mortality something report, where they go back to see where they went wrong. What did we miss? What did we do wrong? So we do kind of our own version of that, where we go back and look to see, okay, let's look at their log entries in Power School. The counselor met with them on this date. This person met with them on this date, wherever that is. And what did we miss? Where can we find something that maybe we're going to shore up? Principals and I are meeting in 2 weeks, as soon as students are all gone, and we're going to go through some of those case studies and look back and say, look, this is where we went wrong with and we're just going to pull them out, change names, and see where did we go wrong with some of them. Was it this communication? Was it this? What was it exactly? And so just looking at that as data, it is hard when you look at the individual cases sometimes, because some of them are just completely one-offs. And everybody is so unique. But when we do find those trends, that's what we want to look at.
Anything else? Satisfied? Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Item 5.1, call to the public. All right. According to ARS 38-431.01, a governing board member may make an open call to the public during a public meeting, subject to reasonable time, place, and manner restrictions to allow individuals to address the governing board on any issue within the jurisdiction of the governing board. At the conclusion of an open call to the public, individual members of the governing board may respond to criticisms made by those who have addressed the governing board, may ask staff to review a matter, or may ask that a matter be put on a future agenda. Members of the governing board shall not discuss or take legal action on matters raised during an open call to the public unless the matters are properly noticed for discussion and legal action. We ask the audience members to practice proper public meeting decorum, refraining from the use of speech or language that is offensive or inappropriate. Those that refuse to follow these rules may be asked to leave. All right. Each person will, well, when you come forward, you'll have 2 minutes for, even when they've lumped their times together. Okay. That's their total time. Okay. All right. Now that we have that straightened out, our first speaker will be Aviva Merchandati, and you will have 4 minutes.
Hello, everyone. I'm going to speak on behalf of Aviva. She was here, but she left for senior sunset. Good evening, members of the board, faculty, and community members. My name is Aviva, and not long ago I sat up on this dais as a student leader of the month, honored, proud, and hopeful. Tonight I'm standing before you not to be celebrated, but to speak out about bullying and harassment I've experienced over the years, particularly at Cactus Shadows. Despite all of this, I've remained a top student while facing adversity. I'm missing my student's senior sunset, which she missed half of today. That's a moment I should be spending with my classmates, celebrating the end of high school. Instead, I'm here asking for safety, accountability, and change. Over the last 4 years, I've endured bullying in almost every form. I've been racially targeted by students. A hate group was formed online and on campus with the specific intent to harass and defame me. I've faced constant mental harassment in class, been ghosted and excluded by peers, invited to fake parties, and deliberately left out of senior prom. When I raised concerns about grading and the curriculum in one of my IB classes, I faced retaliation. When I went to the office, one of the administrative assistants harassed me, telling me that the Mirchandani family really needs to chill out. That kind of treatment from someone in a position of leadership is not just disappointing, it's harmful. The Mean Girls movie has played out in real time in my house. The same group of students continued to target me, especially after learning I had spoken up. One girl actually offered to pay another guy to take me out on a date and then ghost me. An incident occurred recently where I had to file a police report. And throughout all of this, I've dealt with 4 years of bullying on the girls' golf team. Something I've reported multiple times, yet the behavior was allowed to continue. And now all of these students are given leadership positions and recognition, implying that their behavior is acceptable and empowering them to continue. I'm not here asking for special treatment. I'm asking for fairness, for students to be heard, and when they come forward, to listen to them and do something about it. For bullying to be addressed with more than just words, for systems that work, and for adults who lead with empathy and action, not silence and retaliation. As someone who wants to continue the journey in the justice system, I implore you to have open communication with your students about what action should be taken for their protection, similar to the court of law. From a student's perspective, and the lack of communication that demoralizes the student body and leaves me with little faith in the administration to handle the situation. When you honor a student as a leader, you're also making a promise to value their voice. While I'm using mine, I hope you listen, not just for me, but for every student who is scared to speak up. Thank you.
Our next speaker is, go ahead.
This is not the first time we've heard about some bullying.
Put your microphone.
Oh, sorry. This is not the first time we've heard about
And Member
this.
Fortney, I apologize. Protocol is to wait till the very end and
Till the
direct
very
us
end?
and direct us however you'd like. We'll make sure that we get back to it.
I apologize if I mispronounce the name, but our next speaker is Neve Merchandati, and it will be 4 minutes.
To the governing board, staff, and teachers, I'm Neve Mirchandani, a 7th grader. I went to LMES and STMS, and I left STMS because of unfair policies, bullying, being singled out and targeted, racism, and being physically assaulted multiple times. I let myself get beat up, and I didn't fight back by a group of kids because I didn't want to get in trouble. Yet I still got the exact same punishment that they did, a 3-day suspension, which is unacceptable. All day, every day, in this district, I was called names and insulted by many students and even bullied for being Indian. I was pushed to my limits to finally be beat up by some boys just to get punished as well. Yet, in my new school, it's so refreshing. No one calls anyone names in any of my classes. The kind of bullying and discrimination I saw in LMES and STMS, I have never even noticed or heard of in my new school. I feel safer and I can focus better in all of my classes. I want the board to know I was not treated fairly in this district, and I want to voice it. Thank you.
Superintendent Dolzo, proper protocol would be to task, right? So I could
Well,
task to make this an agenda item?
When we're finished with all of the speakers. once we're done.
All the way at the very end?
Yeah.
Copy that.
Our next speaker is Hemnet Merchandati, and you will have 6 minutes.
Ladies and gentlemen of the board, administrators, community members, citizens, parents, and students, I speak to you today not only as a concerned parent, but as an advocate for fairness, student safety, and the right to be recognized. Our family, as you heard, has endured a series of troubling experiences in this district. Incidents that are not isolated, but part of a pattern of mistreatment and oversight. One notice I would like to give, I would expect no retaliation towards Aviva as she's graduating after we speak here, all right? As I start here, I want to make it clear that high school administration has handled many situations amicably. They've resolved them, but I cannot say the same for elementary and middle school. Over time, there are too many incidents that we have addressed, far more than anyone or we should be doing so. It has been exhausting, and we will not ride away quietly in the dust. Although some issues have been addressed individually, the overall effect has been deeply disheartening. The most recent example with our daughter Aviva. This straw broke the camel's back. She was excluded from the summa cum laude recognition despite meeting all criteria and submitting the required forms. This was painful to watch. It was not the first time that she and that family felt overlooked, but it solidified a pattern of exclusion and dismissal that we can no longer ignore. We face retaliation, racial bullying, and administrative inconsistency, issues spanning from elementary to high school. You all heard Aviva experienced everything from classroom harassment and online bullying to a hate group targeting her, 4 years of mistreatment on the golf team, and even a dangerous incident which was reported to the police. Additionally, her prom experience was tarnished by intentional exclusion. Despite these challenges, she persisted with grace and strength, and she stood here asking not to be ignored anymore. Our son Neve, being in 7th grade, faced similar challenges, include continued racial bullying and unjust discipline. Instead of support, he encountered retaliation and flawed investigations, even with a 504 plan in place for his ADHD. The response from administration was inconsistent at best, indifferent at worst. During his time at LMES, we repeatedly raised concerns about bullying. Each time we were handed the student policy book, the bullies were gone for a day and came back the day after. No meaningful action was taken, like even an expulsion, when some kids took it too far. Eventually, Neve was physically assaulted, punched multiple times, and slammed to the ground in the middle of campus. By the way, that middle of campus had no cameras or adult supervision. Despite being the victim, he was suspended along with the attackers. Really, what message does that send? Whether you defend yourself or not, you'll be punished either way. We called the district office to address this, but no solution was provided. In fact, I was asked, how could we address racial and diversity concerns in the school? As parents, we could not continue to allow for the safety and security of our child to continue to be compromised. The last thing we want, as any parent, is the fear coming to fruition when my son does not come home. I would like to urge the board to investigate whether the exit interview of the Mirchandani family is. No one cared, in my opinion, a student left after being in the district for 8 years. We are relieved Neve feels included and safe in his new school. Neve is talented and will thrive, but in a district that prioritizes student safety and accountability. We did not come to this decision lightly, but these repeated failures have compelled us to leave the district. Still, we felt it was important to speak up and not just right away in the dust, because the goal isn't just to share our pain, but to prompt reflection and change. We asked the board and the superintendent to take these concerns seriously. If enrollment is declining, ask why. If families are leaving, ask what their children experienced. If students are not showing up for events, ask why again. You will realize that there are many facing similar challenges. Be human too. Recognition, inclusion, and safety are not privileges. They are the bare minimum that every student deserves. I ask to the citizens and parents of this community, do you know what your children are even up to? In closing, I especially urge you to consider how Aviva continued to strive and achieve despite all she endured. If resilience were a recognized quality, she would be your top honoree. Thank you for your time. I hope you choose action over silence for the sake of every student still walking your halls. Thank you.
Our last speaker is Carrie McCulloch, and Carrie will have 10 minutes.
Superintendent Dolezal, President Guerrero, Cabinet members, and Governing Board members. After reviewing the recent work study meeting, I wanted to express my appreciation for the district's efforts to think creatively, particularly around the use of ESA funds and other options to bring students back to our schools. Innovation and flexibility are essential, and it's encouraging to see the district exploring new solutions. However, this creativity also raises important questions. The special education department has come a long way since it hit a low a few years ago, and I am grateful for so many improvements. Still, much work remains. While this year's special education resignation numbers are lower, the district is losing some of our highly qualified teachers who will be deeply missed. The district does continue to have many amazing teachers, but more must be done to retain them. Many of our campuses continue to rely on under-supported staff and contracted staff, some of whom walk a fine line with compliance. There are unused evidence-based resources collecting dust due to lack of training, some resource rooms functioning more as glorified study halls, and accommodations not being met due to general education teachers not recognizing that all students are general education students first. Some just require help from an IEP team. You would be shocked at the amount of parents spending a fortune on tutoring to fill in those missing gaps. I am one of those parents. Despite these ongoing challenges, the district is moving ahead with plans to open an alternative school. At the January 28th meeting, I voiced concerns about hiring a special education administrator, and 1 hour and 14 minutes into the meeting, it was stated the position wasn't for level D placements, the district was not building a new program right now, nor did it mean the district would be utilizing a vacant campus. And yet, here we are. Just as I stated, it is in the agenda to be discussed tonight. I understand the need to reduce the $2.4 million currently spent on private placements for students in special education, but short-term savings may come at the expense of long-term success if not implemented thoughtfully. At the recent work study meeting, it was stated that the middle and high school campuses currently lack appropriate programs for higher needs students. These programs do exist at the elementary level. I saw a posting for a PATH teacher at the middle school, which is a great start, but what about the high school? Without a true continuum of services, the district is not meeting the requirements for least restrictive environment. It was stated that since the district doesn't have a level C program at the high school, students are being sent away. Why isn't the district looking at a level C program here then? Many of the students placed privately may have stayed at their home school if appropriate supports were in place. And without a self-contained program for reentry, how will these students successfully transition back? Private placements are meant to be short-term, intense programming, not long-term enrollment. The Cabinet stated the district's proposed in-house program, or alternative school, is estimated to cost about $500,000. While that may look cost-effective on paper, we must ask, who will staff it? What curriculum will be used? How will the staff be adequately trained? Special education already faces numerous vacancies, and many contractors are still employed by the district. Some current and leaving staff have been approached to teach at this new alternative school. For those who are planning on staying, this could create additional staffing vacancies. Also, assigning educators to roles outside the area of specialized training is a concern. Although some of our teachers are very talented in their current roles, they do not have the specialized training necessary for supporting students of this type. A promising alternative is SESI, Specialized Education Services, a provider with a proven track record, managing over 95 private day schools on 140 in-district classrooms nationwide. They currently run Gateway to Mesa and Sierra Vista and Scottsdale. The district has used these private placements in the past, but I don't know if they currently are. Despite initial statements by the cabinet that there was no interest from such a company, it turns out SESI is both interested and much more flexible than stated at the recent work-study meeting. Their proposed model, starting with 2 classrooms aiming at about 10 students each, would cost the district about $800,000. The possible 10-student classroom was criticized at the work-study meeting, but I am curious about the structure of the classroom the district is proposing. A huge reason we lose teachers and send kids to privately placed schools is because the district ratios are much higher than our surrounding districts and can be very challenging for staff. The district lost a highly talented self-contained teacher to early retirement just last year because administration thought it was okay to put 14 students in her classroom. 2 of these students ended up in a private placement, but I'm sure they could have stayed if the teacher was provided support. Just one small example of how short-term savings causes long-term costs. SESI also stated that the numbers are always flexible because the classrooms are based on individual needs of the students. SESI is willing to work with the district to determine how to best support students and be in alignment with governing board ratios. The cost is significantly less than current placement costs and drastically reduces transportation costs. Yes, the proposed in-district alternative school is cheaper, but we all know that cheaper is not always better. SESI's proposal could lead to both financial savings and strong outcomes for our students. SESI boasts a 96% success rate in transitioning students back to their home schools. They provide solid data and transition planning to ensure students are prepared for reentry. Their trained teams include educators, psychologists, related service providers, social workers, and counselors, as well as a comprehensive curriculum, including electives that will align with our own district. To restate, they provide trained staff, they provide proven models of instruction, they would also provide insurance coverage for staff and students if something were to happen. SESI has a proven track record for helping kids transition back to their home schools. That is the whole purpose of this type of school. Moreover, if the program attracts students from other districts, costs to Cave Creek would decrease over time and could turn into a moneymaker for the district. It was disappointing to learn that after receiving SESI's full proposal, there was no discussions with the company. The cabinet reportedly informed that the company that the board had voted not to pursue this offer, but would possibly relook at it next year. I hope this detailed proposal is not being used to model a similar program internally. Doing so would raise serious ethical and potentially legal concerns. If the district is truly committed to putting students first, I urge the board and cabinet to revisit the SESI proposal. This isn't just a financially smart option leading to long-term savings. It's a solution that could lead to significantly better outcomes for some of our most vulnerable students. By having SESI supporting those who need intense interventions, the district can free up resources and attention for other areas of need and of improvement, keeping additional students from needing to be privately placed and helping to create a stronger foundation across all of our special education programs. If students first is really the district's belief, it must be demonstrated through concrete decisions and actions. Thank you.
That was our,
Use the last 2 minutes. Would it be okay if I took them back? It's okay if it's against the rules, I understand. But if it's not, would that be okay?
Carrie was our identified speaker, so
That's fine.
I'm sorry.
No, it's fine. I just wanted to personally apologize in front of everybody.
That was our last speaker.
But yeah, so wanted to definitely put what we have been presented with from this family here to the staff to check into this, because this is not the first time we've heard about persistent bullying, especially of people who are not in the majority here in our district. So I would definitely like to see something brought to the staff to review this and then brought forward to the board on what we're doing to prevent families from getting this kind of abuse.
Can I add that we also get information in regards to the exit interview that was given as well?
Can I just be included in our weekly update? And then also, can we ensure we're communicating and responding back to parents? Because there seems to be a theme of these emails, and I'm hearing that we're not responding. So that would be important.
Yeah, it would be nice to be included in what the response is when emails come in and the board is included in those. We most often don't know how that's ever resolved. And so I can see where it appears to the public that we're turning a blind eye, that we're not doing anything, that we're ignoring the situation. And the reality of that is quite often we don't know where it went.
Vice President Ulmer, I'd just like to clarify that anytime the board is included on an email to me, and with that, the response actually appears. So I respond to them that as the public agent of the board that I'm responding, it's been reviewed and then I respond, and then that response is included in the Friday weekly update for all of those where the board is included in an email that I'm on as well. So.
Are you referring more to like these types of incidents that are not emailed to us, that are emailed to other?
Well, I'm personally referring to emails that we receive where the board is often BCC'd, often they're not, but a lot of times we're included on the email that go to all of you. But my experience a lot of times with the board update is we responded and it's kind of a cut and paste. Thank you for your concern. We're dealing with it. And versus, we got a very long one last week. And
I think you're looking for resolution, not just the, hey, received. You're looking at what happened after. Did you meet with the parents?
Right. Because there are a lot of these recurring themes of issues. And so again, I reiterate, I can see where it appears that the board is turning a blind eye. And believe me, at least speaking for myself, that is not the intention at all.
I definitely want to make sure that we are keeping focus on this bullying issue and not expanding it to all of our emails and all of our correspondence. Definitely want this bullying issue and the fact that it has been reported over and over again at some of these schools, and it doesn't seem to be going away. So I would appreciate that being directly addressed.
Thank you, Member Fortney, and Member Ulmer, and Member Moore.
And if I could just add empathy into a task for the cabinet and leadership, it would be, I know at times, as you've alluded, that it's the same people, the same old, gets a little numbing, but we're a small district, and unfortunately, the numbness, we've got to overlook that and have a little bit more empathy because it matters at this point, given our situation.
Absolutely.
I don't have anything to add to the list, but I know Aviva's not here, but I appreciate her comments, and I know it's not easy to stand up in front of any group to address very personal concerns like that. So thank you. Please, extend our appreciation, because student safety is paramount to everything, and it's going to be looked into. So thank you, and I'm sorry that it's come to this point, but anyway. Moving on. Item 6.1, fiscal year 2024-25 budget revision, presented by Dr. Pletnick.
President Greer, governing board members, move that the governing board approve the revised fiscal year 2024-25 budget as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Any questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, where am I? Item 7.1, ASBA 2026 Legislative Session Political Agenda presented by me. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Okay, Jeff, since you are our legislative liaison, your input would be greatly appreciated.
Well, I know that we are asked to go over this and approve what the ASBA, the political agenda priority issues are for 2025, and we are also able to add an item if we wanted to. Needless to say, we don't need to go over all of these, but I'll just kind of briefly do the headlines here. And if there's anything that you guys are thinking that you want brought on, we can add that. And then when we have that meeting I believe it's in September, I can definitely try and get that brought up. But basically, it's just adequately and equitably fund district schools to the national median per pupil funding, preserve, respect, and strengthen local control, improve opportunities and outcomes for all students, require public accountability and transparency for taxpayer dollars spent on education, addressing Arizona's rural and remote schools, school safety and security, and federal advocacy. Those are the main topics. Is there anything that anybody on the board was thinking that we need to address and have them push for the legislature to address here in 2025?
I really like this require public accountability and transparency for taxpayer dollars, especially with the increase of school vouchers. And they do go into that there, but there's a lot of unknowns behind the amount of money that's being sent there, where we have to make sure everything fits in its right line item and bucket. So I'd love them to hone in on that one.
They are saying that they are pushing to repeal any programs that give funds to private schools, the vouchers, and or the school tuition organizations, and prevent future expansions. I know that right now they're talking about the Prop 123 and trying to tie that into the vouchers. So I know that the legislatures are battling against that because that would be another nail in our public school coffin. So hopefully they will address that as well. But is there anything specific anybody has?
Tax credit donation.
Tell me.
So right now, currently 400 to 800 for public. Minimum starting point is about 2,500 for private.
Yep.
And I said minimum can go up to as much as $4,000. It was like
$4,200.
It was like 4,200.
Yeah.
So if they leveled the playing field the other way in our direction, that'd be fantastic.
Right.
Because it's about $7-8 million to the district right now if we played that game.
Yeah.
So tax credit donation,
Match private.
matching
Yeah.
private.
Private, yeah.
Say, let's go the other way for once. Let's let them.
Okay. I like that one.
Yeah.
Anybody else have anything? We can add one thing.
We can add one. So we got two suggestions.
Well, that one was really on there. What Member Walker was talking about, that one was already on there. She was kind of specifying that. So
Okay.
Member Morris, we could add if that's the one that the board would like to add. So that would be that we are asking that the ASBA put on their political agenda to advocate for increasing the tax credit donation to match private education donations.
Yes, sir.
Good luck with that, but yeah,
All right.
we'll go for it.
We're pushing on every avenue on that one right now.
Or even cap the empowerment scholarship. I mean, I think it's hard to get number one if you also have ESAs, because, I mean, a budget's only so big, so you want
when
to
you're not-
have your per student.
But if you're
It's
not
pulling from
attacking
somewhere.
ESA, but if you're not attacking ESA, then there's no defense mechanism. So when we attack ESA, everybody goes defense. So you're hitting tax credit donation. It's that's a good idea. We should do something.
Yeah.
And I know a few legislators that are intrigued, but we need more voices.
Yeah.
A voice of one doesn't really work too well, even though it can be nagging at times.
Okay, so I'm making a motion then that we are, as a board, asking to add the item of having the ASBA increase the tax credit donation to match private school donations.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, you got your marching orders.
Thank you.
Item 7.2, approve the designation of Desert Sun Academy campus as a K-12 alternative and special education school for the 2025-26 school year, presented by Dr. Jensen.
Thank you, President Greer, members of the board. Administration recommends that the governing board approve the designation of the Desert Sun Academy campus as a K-12 alternative and special education school for the 25-26 school year.
So moved.
Second.
Any
Are
questions?
we doing a presentation or anything?
Just questions.
This is questions.
So,
Okay.
not that I'm going to talk about Ms. McCullough's comments, but interestingly enough, there were a few things that were brought up there that I did want to ask. So can we get a little bit more information about how this is going to look, especially in the face of, as it was put, the really tough going to get all these special education experts on behaviors and all that together in this school. What exactly are we planning on doing? How are we going to address that?
Absolutely. Good question, Member Fortney. So we're starting with 4 students, just to be super clear. And we're already currently working with them here at the district office. And so there's nothing really new being added. We have a BCBA, so that's a certified behavior specialist, basically, who works with them. And we also have our social worker who will provide certain parts of the time. We'll have a principal and we'll have a teacher. And we already have our curriculum selected, and so all of that will be in place. And then our plan would be by around December, we anticipate probably about 12 students. I mean, I don't know that it's ever going to cap at 15 might be the ultimate size of it ever. Again, and we're not starting with the EDP label either. We're starting very, very small, very, very slow, and building it. By the end of next year, we're hoping to have an alternative school designation, so it would be an official alternative school according to ADE. That would be our plan. But right now, it's just continuing what we have for our 4 students, and they would be able to go back and forth between Cactus Shadows as needed.
So why do we need to do this right now then?
Because in order for us to start the process of applying, we need to have a school for them. And so in order for us to have that designation, ADE requires a designation of a school. And so the governing board just needs to make this as a resolution, and then this is what our next step is. We'll meet with ADE, and then we take our next steps.
It's a process.
Oh, I understand it's a process. So is the budget.
Yeah, well, it's similar to the human resources. If I'm understanding you correctly, you have to do one before you can do the other, and this is the first step in many to come.
That's correct, President.
How many buildings will this, I mean, with just 4 students, it's just one building on the entire campus, but if this school has this designation, could we ever rent it out to something different, or?
Yes.
Or could Ceci move in for a different level?
So initially,
on a different building?
Yes, good question, Member Walker. So initially, it's just one building, and then yes, if we grow. So one of the biggest issues with Ceci, and I did not tell them that our governing board didn't agree with that. We owned that decision with Ceci, and I'll make sure to include that in the board update this week. But one of our issues with Ceci was that we're charged in essence for 20 students, whether we use 20 seats or not. And so I know we don't need to use all 20 seats, but that's the rate that we're paying because it's about $850,000 no matter what. So then from there, that's where then we'd have to go down. We have the need for 4 at the moment. Again, growing to 12. I don't know that we'll ever get to 20. Our goal would be that we don't hit that high.
So
If we did, we could absolutely call CCUSD and say, okay, we can't find the employees. Maybe you can find the employees. For now, we have the employees.
Are we looking at, when this starts to build, are we looking at just splitting it off by need or by grade level and having then separate classrooms?
Yes. So Member Fortney, if we had younger students, they would have to be in a separate space. And then if we go with the EDP students, same thing. They would have to be in a separate space. So as we grow it, based off of need, then that would be what we would expand slowly. Right now, we're just getting the umbrella, and then we can kind of get all those little compartments based off of need and bringing students back.
So you currently have 4. What's capacity here at the district office? Just out of
It
curiosity.
depends on who you talk to, and we're trying to get that.
I'll go with you for matter of fact. Let's just go. It's your call.
I mean,
I'll
we
leave Ryan out
could
of this one.
absolutely keep the 4 students here.
No,
It's-
but could you do 12?
In that one room, no, I don't think that would be. And again, it depends on the need of the student. Right now, those 4 get along great; they're fine. If I were to bring in somebody who sets off the mix, then no, I can't have that student in there. Our ratio, which I think I shared last time during the work study, we're going to add behavior techs as we increase more students. So we want to keep about a 1-to-4 ratio of behavior techs in the space.
And then how many students that we currently don't have that we want to get back are currently utilizing CCUSD?
None. We don't use CCUSD.
No,
So CCUSD is a service that we would basically purchase to come in.
No, but do parents, when you say parents leave the district because we don't offer something, they place their kids, how many of those kids are placed in a CCUSD?
So Dan, Member Moore, we don't, parents don't leave, special education parents don't leave us to go to a private placement. It's only if we cannot serve them at a certain point, then we send them.
And where are we currently placing?
We have some at AZ Aspire, we have some at Beyond Autism, we have some at ACES, we have some at Chrysalis. It depends on the need of the student. Which again, that goes back to the issue with CCUSD, you can have a behavior or you can have an autism. We don't have enough in either one. It's kind of we have onesies and twosies in all of our spaces. And so to do a program like CCUSD, they want homogeneous rooms, understandably.
Where does the funding come from? Is it a different bucket or is it coming out of?
There's a few different buckets that depending upon the program they start, that it can come out of. I mean, IDA funds could be used for the special ed side. We also can use, if it's a case where we have students we're looking for dropout prevention, we can use some of those instructional improvement funds, even classroom site funds, to address those areas. So M&O always could be used. So there's
Try to stay away from that one.
Yeah, trust me. But yeah, so there's different again term buckets that can be pulled out of. And again, when we're looking at say the IDA grants, using that special education money for those special ed students for the purposes on our campus rather than tuition elsewhere. And staffing as well on our campuses. So there's multiple different funding mechanisms for this.
How do you decide?
That's
Which
part
bucket?
part of the the
magic.
the budget proposal. So we look at staffing. We look at what the staffing's for. We also look at areas such as supplanting. We have to look at. So we can't take a current position, say funded out of M&O, and put it into the grants. But new positions, we can do that. If you look at some of the things historically we've done, as like classroom site fund expanded to certain support services, we're able to use some of those dollars for those types of needs. So really, it's a balancing act of what we want to take out of M&O, where we think funding will come from in the future. Because again, if we look at it, we always want to have a reserve. So let's take classroom site fund, for example. We want to use that for teacher pay, but part of that is used for the other needs our district does have. So it's a balancing act of ensuring we do take care of our teachers, but also using, those funds, but like the other 50% of the instructional improvement funds, because we only can use 50% of those for those things. So what can we slide into those? And where do we know the consistency of funding? That's the other big thing. If you look at, say the classroom site fund, yes, it's gone up. You always want to have some in reserve because, it's based upon that tax. So if we go into a recessionary period, we may not get as much in that. So it's just a balancing act of where we're pulling.
And Member Ullman, if you're talking about, and correct me, but if you were asking how do we decide for when a student, that'll be an individual case. So if a student is really, we're addressing a need because of dropout prevention, then we can use dropout prevention dollars. If it's a specific special education need, it might come out of the IDA grant, the special education fund. So you also have to look at every individual student and what is the case and what is the service that we're trying to help.
So when our
provide.
budget is audited and all of that, they're not so particular about it being so regimented. We have flexibility.
Oh, they're
without any
flexibility as far as Member Ulmer, those categories, like Mr. Dolezal said, like if we have students that we're bringing over from the high school for dropout prevention and we're justifying they're going to look at, is this a dropout prevention program? So they are going to be rigid if we have staff members, and especially grants. Federal money has the most strings tied to it out of any money we use. So when they do their annual audit of those, we may have to move a person where this person was coded for the grant, but no, they tell us they can't be placed in that grant, and we have to move it. So we have to be very careful, especially with federal dollars.
Do you have this factored in the budget we're going to see in a couple weeks?
Why, yes, I do. Member Moore. That all has to be factored in because in the budget in a few weeks you're going to see different pages. Different pages are going to represent M&O, capital, classroom site funds. So you'll see all of those in this.
Is it fair to table this until we can see the budget?
And Member Moore, what I would say on this one is what this does is does not start anything at Desert Sun Academy, but it allows us from the ADE side of things to schools are identified by numbers and then grade levels. It allows us to take that and just move it to a K-12 usage, so it doesn't limit us. Does it mean we have to move forward with any of this? No, but it allows us to get that flexibility.
I got you. I just would like to see us stabilize and really get a clear picture and a line of sight before we venture into new waters.
If we're using the district office right now, do we have to do the same thing? If it starts running a school, if we only have high school students, I would think it's very nice that they're walking distance to other classes at the high school versus Desert Sun. Do we bus them back and forth for things, or are they strictly self-contained where they don't do anything at the high school?
It depends on the student.
Yeah.
So some of them are here full-time right now, and then some of them are going back and forth. And so we already do have a special ed van. And the plan was, I think we discussed this last time, was to block the day so that they can go for part of their day at their own site and then part of the day back at Cactus Shadows. in talking with the kids, they're excited to kind of have their own thing. That's what they're wanting. Some of them do want to spend part of their day, but some of them know that socially it just doesn't work for them. This is what they need to meet their individual needs. They've never fit into the social scene for school. They just have different needs. And so if we tabled it, the only thing is that we have a meeting coming up with ADE again, and so they will just again reiterate to us, well, you got to do the first step before we can go any further. So, which is fine. And then our goal is, again, then to get full accreditation next year with it so that we can grant diplomas from that school so that they wouldn't be a Cactus Shadows High School student. It would be a different student. We can't do that until we get accreditation, which that's a year-long process.
And I'd also just like to, if there's any student for whatever reason maybe cannot be associated with Cactus Shadows campus, this provides a separate place. So again, we can serve more students in different ways. So that's another factor.
That's a good reminder, is that, so when students, to be more explicit, if they are excluded from the high school due to disciplinary purposes for some reason for a long period of time, and they cannot be associated with Cactus Shadows High School, then this is a good alternative for special education students because we're required to provide FAPE for them, free and appropriate public education for them until they age out.
Would it be one that you would use if there was like a long-term suspension?
Yes.
Okay.
Depending on the case. I mean, every single one is a case by case, and that's the thing that's difficult with special education. Everything else, we start with policy, and then we make the kid fit to that. With special education, we start with the kid, and we make our practices fit to the kid.
Dr.
Individual.
Dr. Pletnick, okay. Just for clarification, all we're doing is asking for redesignation of Desert Sun to K-12. We're not actually committed to anything other than the designation of it being K-12 instead of K-6, right?
Correct. I mean,
It's currently designated, it's currently designated K-5 after the
And so
the last
we're
board
just
resolution.
asking that it's a K-12, so then whatever plans are to come, they fit into what the redesignation is.
Yeah, there's two separate sides, and Dr. Jensen's kind of dealing with the ADE side, and the good old SFD side is another side that we would have to deal with, because even on their side, it has to change designation on the SFD side so that it can allow K-12 students, if this is the direction we move into.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions?
Do we have any fees associated with filing this designation? Is there a charge to us? Okay, good.
So once it's approved and you get K through 12, you can basically carry on with the program. Correct?
Correct, Member Moore.
Correct. At that campus, which, again, we don't control programs. So therefore, we approve this. You control programs. You get to do as you please.
We can put programming at that school.
100%.
Correct.
Yes.
Again, and I'll just get to the why point. We just got done telling the public we're closing 2 schools because of occupancy. And we're going to put 4 students with the hope of 12 at a full school. Rank it K through 12. I'm just trying, and then we're complaining about a budget problem. I'm so confused right now how this makes any sense. And
So Member Moore, let me try. Or do you want to finish
let me
and then
just
I'll
finish
try?
my one statement. If we approve this, because again, I'm going to go back to the vote that we did on the closures was to move PALS to Black Mountain. You move them back to Horseshoe Trails because it's part of programs and you can control programs without a vote being made by the board. Therefore, once we vote on this, you can do as you please with that building. Is that correct?
We can do that in terms of a K-12 designation, yes.
And I'm just saying, I'm trying to slow you all down before we have a hiccup in the giddy up or something goes south and now we're in a financial deficit because we didn't maybe wait this out a little bit more.
So Member Moore, let me try to clarify in terms of, okay, You made a very tough decision, close 2 schools to help get within our means, to live within our means. Again, one of the commitments that we made to you was that we will continue to look for both revenue streams and cost savings measures. This is a cost savings measure. If we are keeping the kids there instead of outplacing them, that's cheaper. If we're looking at really, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe we're really kind of targeting the kids that are at AZ Aspire currently and bringing them back. Again, this is a cost savings measure to where we are getting in a better financial situation than we are right now. So that is the purpose of this entire thing, is looking at, well, that's one of the purposes. I would actually respectfully argue that the real purpose is we believe we can do it better for our kids at Desert Sun Academy, and we can serve our kids better. They'll spend less time in transportation. We can do a better job, and we can serve them better. That's the number one thing with students. Now, as a bonus to that, we will also continue to save money and put the district in a better financial position than we are right now. So that's the twofold of that, which is why we're starting with the kids that we have not outplaced this year, because we've managed to do it. And then if we look at and we go through, and Mrs. Gregory works with her team in terms of with our exceptional student services team, and we can get up to that 10 or 12. Now we're talking again, we've repurposed an asset that otherwise is just sitting there, and we're using it, we're saving money, we're putting the district in a better financial position. That is ultimately what we're looking at doing, and then expanding that out as a long term. Then again, we are looking at ultimately serving our kids better and putting in the district in a better financial position.
I love the statement. We just haven't seen the results yet.
As I've worked in a bunch of districts that have this exact thing in place, and it is one school that is designated for this type of population, so that they don't have to send. I mean, I don't know. I don't remember the numbers. Like $80,000-$90,000 a year, because you're paying for the tuition, you're paying for the transportation, you're paying for everything that that kid needs, because you have said to the parents, we cannot provide this service. As soon as you say that, you're on the hook for it, and you're on the hook for as long as it takes. So being able to have that be in-house and take care of them in there, it provides, that is a huge deal. I think this is a great idea. And then when you think about it even a little bit further, and when you can use it as that place for somebody, to go if they're long-term suspended, the family doesn't have to go searching for things. They're not sitting there at home doing nothing. We know right where they're going day one, and we know that the education they'll get. So they've been talking about doing this since we started talking about closing those schools, and this is a really good idea. And if it's done well, again, we got to have the proper curriculum and the proper people involved in it. That's a huge deal for this district. So, at the very minimum, we have to be able to at least do this, and then again, trust the process. These people have been in education for their entire careers. We have to be able to trust them to know what they're doing and do it right, and then we can check up on them as a board. But this is a really good first step that we need to do tonight.
And Member Fortney, I'd just like to add on to that, that within the person who's leading this school is coming from a district with that exact program and has been familiar and instrumental in actually leading that program. So to have that as an asset as well in terms of familiarity with and experience running this exact type of program was exactly who we were looking at to gain that experience, knowledge, and ability to run a successful program.
Member Moore, I'd like to, maybe you can clarify further what your concern is. If we pass this tonight, you mentioned the cabinet can do whatever they want. The board has no say. How would you see that playing out differently if we don't pass it tonight? I just want to be clear that I understand kind of your reasoning.
My reasoning behind all of this, and again, Member Fortney, I hear you 100%. Great at education, support it, love this idea. I do. I'm not killing this idea. But what my concern is, the financial state of the district. There's no fail-safe. If things go wrong, if enrollment hits where the potential forecast is, if there's just a hiccup somewhere, we're already playing a startup game on something that we haven't done before that it's going to have an expense.
And if we don't do this, we're going to continue paying for these
Hold
people.
on. You're not wrong, but hold on.
Remember, I would like to, again, the funding mechanisms go back to that with the instructional improvement funds, classroom site funds, using some of those buckets that we do have money in for, such as the dropout prevention, that we haven't used as a district because we haven't had a dropout prevention program. So looking at it from that perspective, I think, number one, there are certain funds available that we can use that we have not historically accessed for things such as dropout prevention that we can use for this. The other thing, I think we have kids in the building again. If everybody who was worried about SFD coverage, SFD covers Desert Sun. I mean, you can go on in a couple of different ways from this. If you're saying that,
I'm just saying, show me in the budget. It's straightforward. It's numbers. So if you're saying in 2 weeks you're going to show the budget and I can see the numbers, because again, the biggest whole point of everything that been the conversation, and we can say with students first, we can use all the fun little board norms. The reality to it it's been the financial responsibility of right-siding the district. That has been the charge. I'm just asking for a glimpse of show me that we have done it. Show me how we're getting ahead so that I can feel comfortable saying okay. Because once we say okay, you guys are going to execute, which by all means, that's your job.
But isn't this just approval of a designation? It's not approval of a program or anything. It's just approval of.
Once it's approved, they can execute the program.
So Member Moore, are you saying if we approve this, then you're saying no matter what input you may have, we're going to do whatever we want in those regards, and we're going to ignore
technically in programs, and you can. I'm not saying that in a malicious manner. I'm just saying that's the execution of the business. There is. I've been clear on it.
Well, but
yeah, and Member Moore, I'd like to, you kind of mentioned an example with the horseshoe trails and all of that. That was based on input from families, input from parents. That was not blindly done. Because I feel like you're saying we're going to do this, and then we're going to pull the wool over someone's eyes, and all of a sudden we're going to magically have a K-12 entire program at this campus. I mean, that's what I'm hearing. That's nothing in any of our plans. We're sitting here telling you, how many kids we're starting, where our target is to go slow, to do all of those things. Correct. So
I'm tracking, but I'm just saying at the end of the day, there's still money allocated. There's still things that happen. And honestly, I still go back to we're doing these things, but yet we're not even solving the biggest point, which is the fallout at the high school and the middle school. Like our enrollment is depleting, and we're not even attacking the areas where the bleed is.
This is one area of the bleed. This is one.
I get it from a monetary. I get it from a monetary side. I get it from because you're talking about less numbers equals more money. So I get the gain there, but the question still comes into that one's a little bit different because you have to have the appropriate staffing, right? And are we really going to make sure that we have that, and can we afford to have all the appropriate staffing, the 4-to-1 measure with the right paras, with the so on and so forth, even though we have some of that struggle right now currently in our own school?
Again, that is part of the pieces in place. As far as budget-wise, what you're asking, yes, I can put that in place. Again, using those different funds. Now, as far as the HR side of things and so forth, and the recruitment and what plans are on that side, I think that Dr. Hendrickson can speak to that about how we're planning on attacking that side of the house. But as far as the budget will be in 2 weeks, and again, this is. If that's your desire to wait, absolutely, I totally understand it. But again, this measure again is just asking to reclassify that, and ultimately, and just being straight, honest, and upfront, you can delay it for 2 weeks, and then the question becomes, we're going to do it in 2 weeks, and what does that delay cause us in the ability to take action in 2 weeks and start moving forward? Because in 2 weeks we're in June, and school and teachers report in July. As we delay decisions, no, there are ramifications, but again, respectfully, I understand what you're saying as far as
we already have the teachers and we already have the space currently, right?
Yeah, can I ask a few clarifying questions maybe? So currently we have 4 students and they're here at the district office. Are none of them a senior, so we don't have to worry about them not being able to graduate this year? And so that means, but they are going to be seniors next year, and that's the concern?
No, this year, none of them are seniors. I would have to check to see if any of them are juniors. I want to say one of them might be a junior. But so next year, yes, they would. Right now, they're working under as Cactus Shadows students. So they're enrolled at Cactus Shadows. Now, if we're to do let's say the long-term suspension type of thing, they cannot be enrolled at Cactus Shadows, and we cannot then serve them in that capacity. So there's just, it will open it up for us to do it correctly, to do it legitimately, and again, to seek accreditation, which we have to reaccredit the high school next year. And so the plan was that what we would like to do would be, well, let's roll them both in at the same time. We'll get both of those programs.
Next year, as in this coming year, 25-26?
25-26, correct.
Okay. I think probably what you're looking for, and even the public, is a cost analysis of why at Desert Sun versus here at the district office. If you could designate what used to be the developmental preschool portion of this campus for this school versus Desert Sun. Is that maybe what you're, like repurposing current buildings instead of just
And
reopening?
Member Walker, I can address that. Now, the district office is not its own CTDS. It does not have it's not a designated school. It does not have any designation with ADE as a K-5, a K-12. So realistically, that's why the classroom over there is still associated with Cactus Shadows. In fact, I mean, at one point, the district office had classrooms before the new expansion at there. So there were classes over here years ago from Cactus Shadows. So that's part of it in terms of just reclassifying a school that already exists with a CTES number with an identification, in terms of just saying, okay, it'll be used this way, as opposed to buildings now that are not designated as school.
And how does ADE look at it then if they're only using one building and we still want to make a revenue source of other buildings? How do you split up that designation on one campus? Because that would kind of be the same thing as here, splitting up the designation on the same campus.
It's a good question, Member Walker, and we would talk to them and make it happen. I mean, I'm sure that we could absolutely do that. And so I don't know. I think that's more of the business side of things that we'll have to work with ADE on to say this part is going to be designated for this. But that would be if we were to have a renter who wanted to use a portion of it, and again, I think we'd be open to that.
That's also why Desert Sun makes a lot more sense, because having different programs down the road, should we continue to grow and expand programs and have that, you really need different pods, just as Desert Arroyo is designed. So if there was, a section for, for ED, that needs to be its own self-contained pod, which Desert Sun is built that way, so we could have one. Then there could be another one that is more of the dropout prevention. There could be another one who's just the alternative model. So the fact that it's designed in pods already lends itself to having that. Should there be a need that someone wants to come in and rent that, we would break up, and Dr. Plenick, if I am wrong, in SFD, you can designate different buildings that are on campuses. So you would say this is this building within SFD that way, in terms of what is the use, what is each building used for. Desert Arroyo used to have just the buildings that were rented or leased by somebody. Those were designated. Things that were still used by Cactus Shadows were designated differently.
You need students in there for SFD.
And yes, Member Moore, that's another good reason.
Yeah. And what about Lone Mountain then?
So, Member Moore,
Correct.
I do want to say, as I led this committee for the last year plus now of my life, one of the things we heard loud and clear from the board and the community is, what is phase two? What is phase two? What is phase two? We're starting pieces of phase two. So that is our goal here. So with Desert Sun and with Lone Mountain. So as we previously discussed, so Lone Mountain will be the central hub for ECS. all the summer school, all the fall, winter, and spring breaks will be coming out of there. Currently, we're working to design and develop a expanded preschool options, so a 2-year-old, 3-year-old, and then a 4 or 5-year-old classroom. So I'm working closely with Mr. Grosso to design those tracks. We'll be bringing together.
Dr. Hendrickson, we're really not agendized to be talking about
Oh.
Lone Mountain.
I just was talking about SFT. We're fine.
Well, but that's a whole nother agenda.
Thank you, President Greer.
You're welcome. No, please feel free to talk. It's just we got to stay within the
Yeah, so basically,
Dr. Hendrickson, let's put something in the Friday update just about where you are and where that's looking so the board is aware, and we can bring that up at another meeting if we need to as well. Please.
Any other questions? Okay, so we're on the 7.2, approval of Desert Sun Academy. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed?
Nay.
Okay. All right, that one passes. 7.3, teacher stipends for dual enrollment, presented by Dr. Dr. Jensen.
Thank you, President Greer, members of the board. Administration recommends that the governing board approve a stipend to recruit and retain teachers who are qualified to teach dual enrollment classes. The stipend will be equivalent to 50% of the funds that the district receives from Maricopa County Community Colleges, which is based on the number of students who register for the college credits in a dual enrollment class.
So moved.
Second.
Any questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, item 8.1, upcoming calendar events presented by Mr. Dolezal.
President Greer, members of the board, some upcoming events. Sonoran Trails 8th grade celebration is Thursday, May 15th at 6 p.m. in the Cactus Shadows Blue Gym. Cactus Shadows Senior Parade of Schools is May 16th, starting at Sonoran Trails and then moving to the elementary schools. Cactus Shadows graduation is May 21st at 6 p.m. at Desert Diamond Arena. The last day of school is May 21st, 2025. Memorial Day is Monday, May 26th, and district and all school offices are closed. And then just as a reminder, we begin 4 10-hour day weeks starting the week of Memorial Day, so schools and offices are closed on Fridays.
All right, is there a motion for adjournment?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, we are adjourned. It is 8:06.